Okay, give it a second. There we go. Okay,
I'd like to call
So
the
you-
meeting to order at 5:32. Roll call, please.
yes, sir. President Gabehart. Secretary Duval. Here. Treasurer Parker.
Yeah.
Director Brown.
Here.
Director Wager.
Here.
Everyone is accounted for. We have a quorum.
Here. Start the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent items, I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second,
I'll second it.
motion is made and second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approval of minutes from June 10th, 2025. We have a motion to approve.
The motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
Also good.
motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes from June 10th, 2025. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, public comment. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. When you recognize, please stand, state your name, and then address the board in professional matter. Anyone like to address the board? No hands on Zoom.
Nope.
Excellent. Move on, financial reports. Expenditures year to date 2025. Standard work for Putnam Incorporated well at the parking lot.
Yeah, there was nothing extensive about your financial reports themselves. There are a few things I want to talk about as it relates to your finances. I even added a couple more. That's the agenda. I want to start with the extended work proposal by Pumpman on the well located at Kiowa Fire. Found out after they went out there the first time that Pumpman has advised Paul that upon review of the video and seeing the condition of the well that it's in, they are recommending cleaning and reconditioning the well prior to commencing with the testing of it in order to get the best performance of the well condition. They initially suggested that additional cost was going to be $7,070 over and above the $15,988 for a total on that project of $23,058. When I had some communication back and forth between Paul and Randall with Pumpman, Randall advised he wasn't involved in that original bid process and the person that was is gone now. However, he's apologizing on behalf of their company and is willing to reduce the duration of the testing for a savings of $3,700 and only adding an additional cost of $3,370. So that would make the new total, if you chose to do the cleaning, $19,358. I thought you had two quotes on this. You only had one other one. The other one was from Colorado Pump Service and Supply. They quoted a lump sum of $26,900, which included $9,600 to perform well cleaning for 8 hours. And that consisted of a chemical treatment with brushing and surgery. So my question to you all is, do you want to proceed with that project there in light of the money that you guys are spending on sewer repairs right now? Now we have the emergency repairs that happened over at Kiowa Bar that we'll get to in a minute. But those total $7,628 right now. And then we have the matter of the Brightwater engineering delayed invoicing that we need to discuss regarding the PNA project. And they're looking at another $10,000 on that, depending on which way you want to go.
We have to have a second well. I'd say
Oh,
we
yeah.
go with it.
Oh, yeah.
Just to see.
I just wanna know when they say cleaning of the well,
Yeah.
are they just chlorinating the well? And we talked about that.
I don't know, I think that's something Paul would better be able to answer. I know that the other company referred to it as a chlorine, a chemical treatment with brushing and surging. And they wanted $9,600, and that was figured into their quote, which was only 3,000 above. If you added the cleaning into this quote, it's only an increase of about $3,000, almost $4,000. But Paul was on scene when they were there. I would ask Paul what their proposed work is.
Paul, are you on? Can you hear us?
Yeah,
So as far as the cleaning of the well, are you aware of what that entails?
or I'll get you check tomorrow.
Paul, you're breaking up really bad.
Paul,
You gone?
he's gone.
Oh,
Okay,
so,
we'll hopefully get him back here in a second.
I mean, I don't know how different the treatments would be between two well companies, but that's.
Right, I mean, I think that it's similar, but I mean,
But what are they doing?
what are they doing
Yeah.
when you clean well? Are they pulling the well? Are they pulling the pump? Are they, what are they doing? Exactly, so.
My understanding, so he sent a video of it to show me. I can't get the video to open and play. It plays like 5 seconds and then shuts down on my computer. So I've not been able to look at the video. Randall sent me some notes to cross-reference with the video that I don't understand unless I'm looking at the video. And I asked Paul to speak to that tonight because he was actually there, he saw it, and he's watched the video. So he'd be able-
Okay, it looks like he's back on.
I am, yeah, sorry. So I did watch the video, and like I said, once you get into the water, it's so dirty you can't see anything. So I think it'd be beneficial to clean it. They did adjust their total bill. So the new bill after they do the cleaning would be $19,338. So it would go up, what is that? Almost,
3,300.
yeah,
Instead of 7,000.
correct. Because they would take some off the original, because they wouldn't need to do as much once they clean this well. And I can provide Ken that as well. He wrote it on hand and gave it to me today when I met with him this afternoon.
He wrote it on paper where I took my information between emails, Paul and
I
I
got
changed it back and forth.
I got you. So we would have an additional expense above what we've approved of the 15 of about 3,400.
3,370.
3,370, so about 3,400.
Correct.
So we probably need a motion to approve that amount, additional amount.
Yeah, you've already agreed to a proposal, so any change to that, I told Randall I'd feel more comfortable with the board approving any change to what you've already approved.
Right.
And this is for that pump man
Yes.
one, okay.
What do we think? We want to go forward with it?
I think we should. Yeah. We need to figure out if that well's gonna be viable.
Well, in that case, do I have a motion to approve the additional 3,470? 3,370.
I make a motion for the additional 3,370. Very well.
Second,
Second.
motion is made and seconded to approve an additional 3,370 for the testing and cleaning of the well, fire parking lot. Any further discussion?
When will they start that? I mean,
Oh, Paul, did they give you any idea when they would start that?
No, once it's approved, I'll have to call them and get on their schedule. But it should hopefully be pretty quick.
Well, they just approved it. I could send you an email, confirming that for you.
That's
Tomorrow.
fine.
I'll just, okay.
So then assuming that we can clean it up, then we have to test it to see what kind of pressure.
Well, that includes testing.
Yeah,
correct?
it
Yeah.
includes testing.
So then we'll know if it's good enough to use for
Yeah.
that and see what.
What
You'll
it
know,
costs.
you'll know if it's good enough, and you also know what you need to do to make it viable. It still has to be connected into the main, it still has to have its own fortification and structure protecting it. So there's still things that need to be done, but drastically lower than the 5,000, 5,900.
Yeah.
Right.
Replace.
It-
So do we have a vote on that?
Not yet. Paul, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that included the actual lab fees. We'll have to run a set of tests on the well to make sure it doesn't need anything else for treatment. So that should be less than $3,000.
$3,000 for lab fees.
Correct.
The lab fees.
And we
for
don't,
Testing?
Oh,
The
say
lab fees
again?
I'm sorry, the lab fees wouldn't be considered part of the testing?
I don't think they are. I'd have to ask Randy.
Okay.
I think they're just testing the well. They're gonna pump it, make sure everything flows correctly and I'm sure they're doing the pump and motor size. But there's a separate set of tests that the state requires for wells to come online to make sure that you don't need like the green sand filter or anything else to meet standards, so it's good enough for drinking water.
So there's a potential for it to go back up to the $24,000.
Yeah. But that's separate from I don't know if any of the well companies included that in their bid or not. And I'll ask Randall if it's included in this one or not.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve an additional 3370. All those in favor of that motion on the table?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Well, we can find that answer out. Kevin, you know, let me know.
Okay. The second thing I put on your agenda is this right water engineering delay invoicing on the PNA project. CDPHE provided, awarded a $10,000 grant that we had an option between utilizing that for the PNA or utilizing it for construction. PNA was needed prior to even getting anywhere near construction, so we chose PNA. At the time, Right Water provided a project quote of $12,000 to complete that, so it was about $2,000 over what the grant award was. I have those here, I've read those extensively. The only areas where they proposed that there would be an increase, if needed, was in cost, of expenses, mileage, copy and computer time. If there was a needed environmental review, which there wasn't, there's a checklist that was included in their, project quote. And as long as there wasn't a whole, report needed, we were good with that. We paid them $6,212 in 2023. And that was one invoice, and between, 3 invoices in 2024, an additional $5,157.50, totaling $11,369.50. To date, in 2025, we haven't received any invoices toward the PNA. However, this additional invoicing that they've sent us, which states it's for services from March of 2024 to May 31st of 2025, is an additional $10,541.83. For additional work they said they've done toward the PNA that they were holding off invoicing because their plan was, in order to help us, was to include that in the next grant that we would be pulling from for this project. However, when you start pulling from those grants, you're not going back to what you've already been invoiced for. You're dealing with what you have right now moving forward.
Mhm.
So that's a problem. We never would have been reimbursed for that. We could have gotten another $1,800 something reimbursed to us. We still had under that grant, but we never received another invoice. And I was informed by CDPHE when that expired, we lost that $1,800. They're saying their additional services are as follows: preparation of cash flow projections, researching, analyzing operations maintenance costs within a rate study from rural water, to move CDPHE submittal ahead, documentation of updates and edits related to board turnover, addressing environmental checklist review comments and requests for additional information. That I categorically disagree on because their proposal covered the environmental checklist. So if there were comments and requests from CDPHE regarding what they submitted, I'm not sure why we're being charged additional when the CDPHE is asking clarifying questions regarding what they've already submitted. Additional coordination with CDPHE regarding PNA revisions and submittal through the online portal. Follow up on PNA review status with CDPHE and KWWA. So I do know that CDPHE had to add them to their portal for them to be able to upload information. I'm reading that as that was considered additional coordination to talk to the CDPHE and have them added to the portal. So that's billable, I guess. They said the above services were not included in the original agreement and scope of services dated September 13th, 2023. So I have questions about that. I don't agree with it. But I don't know what your appetite is in wanting to.
So if they weren't included in the original scope of services in the original bid, in my opinion, they were never approved by this board to
Do without
do without
further approval.
approval, right? Because the scope of work was defined in the original bid, correct? And there was nothing approved beyond that. I think that, yeah, we need to, dig our heels in a little and say, hey, you know. I think,
I would agree. 100%.
Now, in that billing, is that with our red lines that we submitted? Some of those items sound like it.
No, actually, that's the water plan. This has nothing to do with the water plan. That's another additional $10,000.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
This is just for the PNA.
and my other question is when the original contract was approved with them, was there a timeline put on that was that timeline met? And if, why would they delay the billing? I mean, I understand what they're saying, that they were trying to get it under a different grant, but.
Well, I think that they thought they were helping us by trying to get the entire amount of the cost covered without any money coming out of your general fund.
But they have costs in there that weren't approved, so.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
I disagree with their billing it.
Yeah.
If
Right.
they went ahead with the scope of work that wasn't approved by the Water Authority Board, then. I think
Yeah.
I'd push back pretty hard.
Yeah.
So it says, Right Water estimates the not to exceed labor fee for preparation of the PNA and associated documents at $12,000.
So that's what I would assume the contract.
And there are, like I said, there's things in here that are clearly stated would be in addition to, if we needed an entire environmental review study done. Obviously, that would be a completely different project and another cost. But we were only needing by CDPHE standards, an environmental checklist, which they provided.
Well, and I think the one line right there, not to exceed 12,000 covers your bill.
That's my feeling on it.
Yeah.
My feeling on it. So I didn't know, so this thing with the bulk waters in limbo Because I can guarantee you, they're not gonna wanna start doing anything regarding that until they feel they've gotten payment on this. I might just have feeling that's where it's gonna go. That's why I wanted to talk to you guys about it, and see what your feeling was on it, and how you wanted to proceed with it.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, I still say we put a, use that and stop.
Who's that gonna put a stop to our IGA?
I don't think so. We could look at other options, you know, you and I have discussed the type of revisions that need to be done.
Because we got rodeo season, all kinds of events, and
Right.
we were talking about the fairgrounds and the KWWA.
Yeah.
We can't have disruption of the water.
There wasn't disruption.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure.
We're making every effort to work with the county, to keep that
Yeah.
relationship there with them harmonious. It's not their fault we're in this position with them. We all know it's clear, once that water plan is done, it's a formality in returning that water to them. It's not a matter of if it's gonna get done, it's just when it's gonna get done. So we're trying to keep that relationship completely separate from whatever issues we're having here, and we're being very accommodating to them.
Yeah, so I think that's your directive.
Okay.
Dig in and let's see.
Okay, I'll do that. The next thing that I wanted to bring up was the emergency repairs at KWWA on July 3rd. That took 27 hours to finalize those repairs ultimately. CNC's final invoice was $6,458. They did cut that down for us considerably. And Headway's invoice for emergency repairs for 27 hours of work was only $1,170. So total on that was $7,628. There was some suggestion of splitting that with the business owner, and I wanted to know how you want to proceed with that, if you want me to open a line of discussion with them on that, or do we want to just settle with what has been put in?
What was determined the cost?
Well, Paul, do you want to speak to what all you went through for 27 hours? I think you'd be a better person to relay that information.
Yeah, so when we got the phone call, it was stated that there was a leak at the bar. When I got there, there was water coming through the wall, following their service line into the building. But it took a while, and we dug for several hours trying to find the service line to even just to apply a curb stop, which we never found the service line. Finally, through all the digging, they found a meter pit that was for the bar outside. So we replaced that meter in the meter pit, and then it was fine. And then the next day, Jeremy with CNC Construction stopped by to get some measurements for the concrete and stuff, and heard the water. So he opened up the pit, and it was there. There used to be an air relief valve that was put on all the old yokes, and that had popped off during the night. So we had to replace the entire yoke for that meter.
And that meter pit was found under the concrete, correct?
Correct. So I'm not sure when that was buried, but at some point when they buried that shortly after, they must have been told, hey, you don't have a meter, so you need to install one in the building. So that's what was done.
So just so you guys know, Paul's job is complicated 3,000% sometimes when we have things like this happen, because long before any of us sat in this room, records were not kept by the people that were working on the system. They would make the repairs, but there was no updating of maps where stuff was located. There was no updating of what we have, what was being installed, what's being taken out. There was
Where the lines go.
where the lines go. So Paul was headed out to the alleyway to start boring in the alleyway, looking for this. And ultimately was able to locate it under the concrete slab at the back patio where they have their nighttime music events. So there was also a line that became obsolete or something like that, Paul, if I remember right. Anyway, a lot of the work he did was exploration before they finally found it. And then once they found it, it was a quick 10-15 minute repair. It was ridiculous. So as Paul's going through here, we're finding these things, he's correcting them. So that I just lost my train of thought. Look at it, Paul. So, and that's a lot of what the problem is when we have these things happen. It's unfortunate that the water was shut off during that time. But it is what it is. And, you know, Joey bought that property not knowing where the meters were located. Nobody goes in and buys a property and says, oh, before I sign on the dotted line, can you tell me where all my meters are?
Well, that's my point, is how are you gonna put it on her when
Right,
most all of us probably don't even know
right.
where any of that is.
It was an unfortunate incident at a very inopportune time. And I'm sorry, but I have to give great kudos to Paul and CNC for getting right on it and staying on it until they found resolution to it.
And we even if we had a locator out, or he had a locator
Yeah.
out, there was 2 locators out.
I
I
couldn't.
tried my locator, we couldn't find the main line.
Yeah.
We could not locate.
Right.
I mean, it's just,
Just like-
yeah, it's
Yeah,
so difficult.
well, this could be a reoccurring problem.
It will in these older buildings
You know what I
because
mean?
you don't know.
You don't know.
And one of the problems too is, in my opinion, is, you know, they talk about it's the town's responsibility up to the curb stop and the home, on the landowner's responsibility from there. Well, the meter's in the basement.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was an additional meter, that wasn't even the original meter, cause it's, you know, outside the building, so then you say, okay, well, where's the curb stop?
Right.
You know, that's the problem, that, in my opinion, needs a solution in the future, but of course it costs money, because what you should do is have all those at the curb stop, and then you know
You know
what
what
goes
the
on
curb
from
stop
there,
is.
so. Yeah, it's an issue.
It's gonna continue to be an issue.
Yeah, with these old buildings,
Mhm.
nobody knows, they evolved over time,
Of course,
so. But I'm in agreement with you.
and that's my opinion. You can't put it
That's my
on, you can't
opinion.
put it on the owner to do that
No.
because it's
Right.
way before
That's my opinion too.
the owner would know what to do.
Those aren't things that people go in and buy property and
No.
ask about.
No.
And it's, like you said, lack of controlling the problem from
Right,
get-go.
right,
Yeah,
yeah, and when, they put new lines in this and that, instead of doing it properly and fixing that. And saying we're putting the meter here and putting the
Right.
pit here and we're gonna run a new line there. Of course, I'm sure that it was about money too.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
This is the cheapest, easiest fix, and
Easy.
we're gonna roll on, so.
So if you guys are good, we're gonna call it good. And just know that that's what that ended up costing the authority. Paul's updating the maps, updating the infrastructure information, for Diamond Maps. And you should be good moving forward.
Now the
At
next
least with
one,
that
right?
building.
Yeah, yeah.
Move on to the next one. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is during our monthly meeting, we talked about the anticipated sewer maintenance that we have every year with DES pipeline. We paid them $7,000 last year to do that sewer maintenance. However, for 2025, we allocated $50,000 for repairs and maintenance, and we're currently sitting at $44,443. With no light at the end of the tunnel yet as to where these sewer repairs are gonna take us right now that we're dealing with. Paul said we can skip a year with no harm in doing so in order to save in this area. If you guys are good with that, but that is something we budgeted for. But now we've been having a large knee-jerk reaction again to a bunch of repairs. And we're almost at cap halfway through the year. So, you guys are good, we can push that out at Paul's advice till next year.
You won't do any harm.
That's what he said.
I always hate to see maintenance put, but I understand it. So, that's Paul's recommendation, I don't have a problem with it.
Paul, did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Anybody else?
Agree. Okay, fine. One last thing, I'm sorry, I lied. You
can't
also,
do it. You-
sorry, I know, well, we need to work through this, another part of sewer maintenance annually is changing the UV bulbs. Those suckers are expensive. Last time we bought them was in 2023 and it cost the authority $3,587.63. You were charged tax in the amount of $184.07 because these came from Canada. And not only are you gonna pay tax on that again, but now you're facing an issue of possible tariffs, getting something from Canada right now. So I've asked Paul, to try to locate a vendor here in the US to provide these, and he's gonna try to hunt those down for us and see what we can do with that. I cringe at what that might look like.
Yeah.
All I have now on financials.
Any questions for Kim?
Is there any way I could say something?
No.
I I don't know what the rule is with waterborne.
Typically, we don't. We have a comment section at the beginning, but we will since we were just talking about you.
Okay, well, I didn't get to hear what happened and I apologize, I was running late.
We were just talking
hopefully-
about how sorry we are about what happened.
I feel bad for, that whole area because without having shut-offs, I talked to Donnie a little bit that day and.
Yeah.
They couldn't find it, as you guys know, they could not find the line, which is so bizarre. Now, my husband does have equipment that could probably find those lines. And he would probably be willing to, I don't know if he could come do all the work, but he could probably do volunteer his equipment. To try to find those lines. But he already told Paul he would do that, and Jeremy. I just have to say, I was super impressed by Paul. Super impressed. Paul went in, he not only, he was there for like 24 hours.
27.
Okay,
But I called him at 10 o'clock that night to get
Yeah.
out there and he'd already been up since early that morning. So by the time the next morning hit.
Yeah.
And he finally found it and got resolution to it. He'd been up, 30 or
I
so.
have to tell you, I was super impressed. He not only answered my phone calls
Mhm.
and, just got back to me and said, hey, this is what's going on. I mean, what a great. I have to tell you, what a great asset for him to be here. I was so impressed by his abilities to not only return my calls, but to answer my calls and to just be there. Super impressed by him. And actually, I felt like CNC was also, they stayed like over 20 hours. I know they did. So I have to give you guys that. Really good.
Thank you.
That somebody actually came in and did, they didn't just not care. You know what I'm saying?
I
They
do,
really
Jordan.
gave a crap.
I do too.
I appreciated that because it was a nightmare for me. When I started getting those calls at 10 o'clock, I was like, oh boy. What is this gonna cost me and what time is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want you guys to know I do appreciate that.
Yep.
And I appreciate Paul because he was awesome.
Thanks for your
Thank you.
comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're good?
I'm good.
All right, Paul, you're up.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So the couplers are here for the wastewater plant, so I just need to schedule a time to have the crane come out and see if we can actually do it ourselves to save the district some money. So Donnie, whenever you're available, if you could just let me know.
I'll make contact with you.
Okay. And then the temporary lift station pump will be here on Thursday, and Browns Hill will be on site. And we're going to put this pump in to see if there's any issues with the power. And if there is, at that time, Browns Hill will start working on that to get it figured out, because they've sent back several pumps and they rebuild it and send it back out to us. We install it, and then it has an issue within a very short period of time where it just doesn't work. So we're trying to see if that's on the motor company that's rebuilding these things, or if there's a power issue. So hopefully Thursday we will have that resolved as well. So otherwise, everything else is going pretty good. We did have that one leak at the bar. We had a small leak at the fairgrounds. So I'm sure it's messing up the water loss for this month.
Pretty badly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it fucked it up.
And we did install some meters through all of this. We'll continue to install those. So we installed an additional 8 meters during all of this, water being off. So those will keep happening as the week goes on.
They
Perfect.
took advantage of
Yeah,
Yeah.
downtime you had.
yeah, perfect. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Now, we touched on the water plan revisions. As far as the county side of it, we had a June 10th lunch meeting scheduled. That was one of the items set to be discussed during that lunch, and the commissioner had to cancel that lunch due to county business. That was going on at the time. We've not been able to reschedule it yet because of those schedules, but we're still working on that. Civic Plus Agenda meeting software went live this month. There's nothing that happens without some kinks. When we went to publish your agendas and packets last night, the software wouldn't do so. So the people who are assigned to our ticket are on another time zone and already gone at the point where we were trying to publish it. You got with them this morning, got everything corrected, so your next meeting will come to you via the application. In the course of learning what was going on with it this morning and fixing that, we found a neat little tool that it's provided to you guys with your iPads. We will publish it to the public, which will go on the website, but then we can also publish it to the board themselves. So if you guys sign in to the software, you create a sign into it, you can access the same thing the public's seeing on your end, but it allows you to enter notes and comments for your own records on there. You're not shared with everybody else, but it allows you to keep track of your comments or your notes that you're taking during the meeting rather than have to write them down and on paper. So, just to keep.
But it is on the, if you're on the town website, there's a new bar and the one says agendas. And if you click on that, then you can click into the KWWA meeting and it pulls up the whole agenda and packet. Yeah.
So all the old meetings, minutes and agendas will be archived.
They'll stay where they are.
A page on the website. Anything now moving forward will be accessible via that one link on the homepage. And Sasha's figured out how to upload the videos to also attach to this app.
Yeah.
So
like the planning meeting from last week, because we didn't have the Civic Plus live yet, the agenda and minutes aren't there, but I was able to link the video. So someone could go in there and click the video and watch it. So, so it should be a pretty good tool. We're getting the kinks worked out. We were a little panicked yesterday, so that's why you got them the old fashioned way. It was like, yeah.
Thank you.
So,
All right, Josh, you're up.
all right, me, well, basically not much to tell, except, Paul is right. Between the leak at the fairgrounds where they cut a line, and the bar, which probably the bar will carry over a little bit. But yeah, so we lost a bit of water. But plus there's also, the fairgrounds during Cowboy Up, they did, keep track of their water. But it doesn't show on this. So it'll show on there next month's, because I'm gonna have to add it in. So they just sent me a spreadsheet with what they had used. So that's probably in here too.
is it fair to say that some of that water loss
Is not real. Yeah, yes. I would say some of it is not real. But some of it is. So it's probably not as ugly as it looks, but that's kind of how it fell out with what the computer shows is sold versus what it was actually sold versus what was actually lost. So it's probably not as ugly, but just know that is there. And then brain fart. Oh, all of the delinquent accounts minus our continuing one were paid last month. I sent out 2 shut-offs this month and 5 warning letters. One of the shut-offs is already paid. So, and of course, they have till, the end of the month, but, so actually our numbers are down as far as that goes this month, which is quite nice, because last month I sent out like 14 warning letters, so. Other than that, nothing too crazy here, so.
Good. Any questions for Sasha? What else? Looks like we're down to the last motion today.
You are.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
One second.
motion been made to adjourn and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 6:12. Thank everyone.